All right, there you go. All right, so I just like to get an idea on how many newbies we have here. Sorry, Nino is still saying I can't hear anything from the presentation. Dude, I think that's from your audio. Let me just message him. All right. Anyway, so let's continue. So I just like to know how many people here are newbies, because this is an intro to forex trading course. So I just like to know how many newbies we have. We have guess who? Are you really a newbie? Um, all right. That's nice to hear. I think I just think that you're like one of my old friends who's just um, trolling me with guess who. Anyway, cool. All right, that's great to hear, Nino. It's great that you have sound there. Lester Lee, I think, are you the same Lester Lee from Facebook? So I think I know you. That's great. Um, all right. We have a couple of people, 7 months training, trading, 6 months, 3 months. All right, that's a lot of experience. Okay. All right, we have a couple newbies. So this will be a four-part webinar. So it's gonna be a webinar series. For the first one, this will be intro stuff. Okay, so just basics. This is designed for newbies. And then next week we'll have another webinar that will tackle something deeper, and then we go to more advanced stuff as the series progresses. Okay. So all right, we have someone who's been trading 5 years. All right, that's great, man. And I hope you can also help our co-members here to in trading. All right, so let's start. Okay. So again, welcome to our webinar series, and this is our signature presentation, Crash Course to FX Trading. So the the objective of this course, or this for the next hour, is that um, for all the newbies, you'll know or and understand how forex trading really works, what it really is, and how do we do it. And then we can also add in some basically the math of forex. How do you actually profit from it? How do you count tips? How do you count your profits? How do you count your losses? So that's our objective for today. I'll also show you a couple of options for you later on how can you actually participate in forex trading. And then the last part will be how to avoid Ponzi schemes and scams, because in our association, this is actually what we're spearheading. We're teaching everyone to, we're teaching everyone what forex really is. And in every city, in every province that we go to, there's like two, three, or four Ponzi schemes going on. So we just like to um, let everyone know how to avoid those things and identify what are legitimate investments and well, basically how it works, right? So welcome to the course, and let's start. All right, so just a little disclosure: trading in the financial markets carry inherent risks. Trading may result to profits or losses depending on market conditions. So if people tell you this is like a short thing 100% of the time and there's like zero risk, that's probably not the forex market. So we advise you to only invest funds that you're willing to risk. Meaning, please don't invest funds that have a certain purpose, like um, maybe it's money for your electric bill, money for your food, for rent, for your kids' tuition or something, or hospitalization. Just invest money you're willing to risk. Okay, so no guarantees can be made in the market. All right, so what is trading? Whenever people hear trading, forex trading, stock trading, futures trading, it sounds really complicated. Okay? Actually, it's not that complicated because if you dumb it down, what is trading? Trading is just buying and selling of securities, commodities, goods, or services. It's like when you go to a store, okay, punta ka ng tindahan, bili ka ng candy, that's the same thing as trading. Why? Because you're trading money for candy. And that's the same thing with all the financial markets. Okay? Whenever you're just exchanging something for another. For example, if you go to the stock market, you buy stocks there, you're exchanging money for shares of a company. In forex trading, what you're doing here is that you're exchanging one currency to another. You're exchanging your money to another currency. So you're buying one currency and you're selling your own currency. That's forex trading actually in a nutshell. So what is trading for? Basically, for us retail traders, we trade so that our money grows. We have a certain capital and we trade it so that it grows. So that's our main objective for trading. Our objective is not to have fun in the market. Our objective is to make money in the market. So why should you trade? Sorry, this is old data. I have to update this. I have to check out 2015 data. So why should we trade? There's this thing called the inflation rate. It's basically how much things increase in value, mainly our consumer goods. So for example, if you've noticed, our consumer goods has been going up for the past 10 years. Okay? Mas mura yung mga gamit noon kaysa ngayon. Mas mura ang pagkain noon kaysa ngayon. That's because of inflation rate. Because every year everything increases. Everything basically the cost of consumer goods gets higher every year. Okay? So that's due to the inflation rate. So 2014 was 4.1%. So let's have an example. Let's say you have Burger McDo. Okay? And let's just, for the sake of argument, let's say it's 100 pesos. If you, let's say 2014, it's 100 pesos. And then come 2015, if the inflation rate was 4.1 average for the year, your Burger McDo would probably be 104 pesos. So if you had 100 pesos, you won't be able to buy the same thing the next year. You won't be able to buy Burger McDo the next year because it's already 104.1 pesos. So basically, that's what's happening every year. Okay, so you might not notice it because it's not a really big increase, but over the years, the cost increases and it gets higher and higher. So what do we do to counter inflation rate? Basically, you need to put your money where it also grows, and at least it should beat the inflation rate. So for example, you have here some bank interest rates. Again, this is 2014 data. I have to update this. The highest one is, let's talk about time deposit first. Okay. I'm not sure if a lot of you have time deposit accounts. Maybe some of you do. Who here has time deposit accounts? Can you guys like comment on the chat room here if you guys have? All right, that's great. Yeah, okay. You have one. Okay, guess who has time deposit account? That's great. Well, that's like one in how many are you? 40. Okay, exactly. So there's like 40 of us, and nobody here, or actually just one of us, has a time deposit account. Okay, so if you have a time deposit account, that's good for you. Let's say you put it in PS Bank, the interest rate per annum is 1.5%, meaning if you have 1 million pesos and you leave it in time deposit for a year, at the end of the year, you get a good, what, 15,000 pesos. And that's a good amount. Just by doing nothing, you get like 15,000 pesos. So you may think that, hey, my money is increasing, and with 15,000 pesos, I am able to buy a lot of things. But if you think about it, if the inflation rate was 4.1%, it means that you actually lost 41,000 pesos that year, and your investment only made 15,000 pesos, because 4.1 to 1.5% is very far. So that's with time deposit. But most of us, I think 39 of us did not reply to it. So meaning you guys only have savings account. Just like me, I don't have a time deposit account. So I have a savings account, and what savings accounts are giving you are a really low rate. They give you like 0.5% highest. That's for BPI and PS Bank. I'm not advertising them. I'm just saying that they have the highest rates. Um, if you have BDO, I have RCBC. I'm actually with RCBC, and I get like a measly 0.15%. So that's terrible. So if you compare 4.1% to that, that is that's really low. I mean, we're really losing a lot of money. So what we have to do is that whenever you invest your funds, okay, it has to make more than the current inflation rate for you to keep your money's value. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Is it clear so far? Before I move on, clear, clear. All right, that's great. All right, so let's move on. Okay, now let's talk more about the forex market. Sorry. Before I move on, with what I said earlier, you guys should put money where it should earn more than the current inflation rate. So the forex market is not the only avenue where you can do that. There's a lot of avenues. There's a lot of places you can put your money in. You can put your money in business. You can invest in other people's businesses. You can put it in the stock market. You can put it in bonds. You can put it in mutual funds. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. Okay, so the forex market is just one of the avenues that you can take whenever you'd like your money to increase, right? So personally, this is my favorite one. Okay, the forex market. So the forex market is the largest financial market in the world. With again, this is old data. It should be like 5.2 trillion today. So that's 5.2 trillion trade volume per day, meaning this is the money coming in and coming out of the market every day. So if you actually compare it to the other markets, more directly to the stock exchange, it's very different. Like for example, if you think about the New York Stock Exchange, that's like the biggest stock exchange in the whole world. And when you hear that, you tend to think that all the money in the world is there. Um, everybody's playing there. All the biggest investments are there. But actually, majority of the money is not in that market, but rather the currency market or the forex market. Why? Because everything that you do actually affects the forex market. You might not notice it, but everything we do actually affects the forex market. Why? Let's say you bought a car. Okay? Let's say you bought a car. Okay? Let's say you bought a nice, um, let's say Mitsubishi car. Okay, so a Mirage. Okay, so you have a Mitsubishi Mirage. So even though you bought that here in the Philippines and you paid for it in peso, those parts did not actually come from the Philippines. So they might have been manufactured in, I don't know, China, and they were sent here to be assembled. Okay? So when it was from China, of course, that wasn't bought in peso. It was bought in Chinese yuan, okay, by Mitsubishi, okay? And then it was sent here. So basically, there was already an exchange of Chinese yuan to Philippine peso, okay, if you want to do it direct. But most countries actually don't do that. Or most multinational companies don't actually do that. They actually convert it into dollar first and then convert it back to Philippine peso. Okay? So if you think about it, there was already an exchange happening in between. And there might not only be one, two, or even three exchanges in between. Okay? Let's say you bought a cell phone. Okay? Let's say an iPhone. Parts might have came from China. Okay? So US bought that. It was sent there. It was assembled in US. So there was a change from Chinese yuan to US dollar, and then it was sent here in the Philippines, and then we bought it in Philippine peso. So there was already another exchange there from Philippine peso to, US dollar to Philippine peso. So there were already two exchanges. So everything that you have right now, or not really everything, but a lot of things that you own right now actually came from somewhere else, not here in the Philippines, and there was currencies exchanged in between. So that's the reason why this is the largest financial market in the world. Everybody in the whole world actually contributes to the volume of the forex market. Okay? In the New York Stock Exchange, it's not the whole world is involved in that. We don't directly trade in the New York Stock Exchange. We might actually get some services, avail some services, buy some things from listed companies in the New York Stock Exchange, but far less than what we contribute to the forex market. So if the trade volume is that big, why not earn from it? All right. So now let's go deeper into the forex market. So what is the forex market? So the forex market is just an exchange of currency. Okay? So keep it simple. It's not a complicated thing. It's just an exchange of currency. There's also no physical existence, unlike the stock market, because the stock market has stock exchanges. So they have physical entities there. But for the forex market, we don't have physical entities. The closest that you can get is the central bank. And remember that they are always traded in pairs. For example, you have the US dollar versus the Philippine peso, euro versus US dollar versus the Japanese yen. So in the forex market, they are always traded in pairs. So please remember this. They are always traded in pairs because whenever you're selling a currency, you have to exchange it for something else. You have to buy another currency. If you're buying a currency, you have to sell your own currency. That's why it's an exchange. Okay? So that's the forex market. They are always traded in pairs. Now, think of currencies like shares of a country. Okay, so let's make it a lot simpler. Think of currencies like shares of a country. If you think about the stock market, it's a very easy market to understand. Okay, so let's say let's talk about Petron. Okay, let's say you have Petron, which is 10 pesos per share. Now, whatever happens to Petron directly reflects on the value of their shares. Meaning, if let's say Petron does well for the year, let's say they have a lot of sales, they opened up a lot of branches, everything went well for Petron the whole year. What will happen to the shares of Petron? Naturally, the value of the shares of Petron will increase. Okay? Now, vice versa, if something bad happens to Petron, they have terrible sales, there's like a new competitor that came up and ate a big chunk of their market, what will happen? The value of Petron shares will go down. Now, for the forex market, it's quite similar. Think of currencies like shares of a country, just on a macro scale. So what I'm saying here is that whatever happens to a country directly reflects on their currency. Again, let me repeat that. Whatever happens to a country directly reflects on their currency. So does that make sense? Right. Now, let's say the US. Okay, let's say for the US, let's say everything goes well for the US. Okay. Their employment is at a good rate. A lot of people are employed. Let's say their debts are zero. Okay, they don't have any debts. Their retail sales is good. Manufacturing is good. Export, import, all good stats. What will happen to the US? Okay, naturally, the economy of US will be better. Okay, now that will have a direct effect on their currency. If US is doing well, the value of the US dollar will also go up. Now, vice versa, if something bad happens to the US, let's say they are in a lot of debt, their housing sales is down, retail sales is down, import is down, A lot of people are jobless. What's gonna happen? Economy will slow down. They don't have a lot of money. Okay, so that will directly reflect on their currency. The value of the US dollar will go down. Okay, so is that clear so far? Before I move on. All right, good, good. All right, so all right, let's continue. So having that in mind, okay, remember that whenever we're trading currencies, they are always traded in pairs. Okay? Now, that given, prices are relative to their pairs. Okay? Prices are relative to their pairs. What do you mean? One affects the other. Now, let's say the US dollar goes down. There's a lot of bad things happening in the US dollar. Their economy is down. Okay? Employment is down. Everything is down. Now, if we're talking about the currency pair US dollar versus the Philippine peso or USD PHP, if US goes down, what will happen to the Philippine peso? Okay? Let's say nothing is happening in the Philippines. Okay? Very stagnant economy. Nothing good is happening. Nothing bad is happening. So it's practically the same. It's not moving. So if the US dollar goes down, the Philippine peso goes up. Okay? So it has prices are relative to their pairs. Okay? So let's say the US dollar goes down, Philippine peso, the value of Philippine peso goes up relative to the US dollar. Okay, so if you have the US dollar rate, like you have 45 pesos per dollar right now, if US dollar goes down, the value of US dollar goes down relative to the Philippine peso. So, what will happen? Bababa yung rate ng USD PHP. It might go to like 42, 41, or even 40 because it would take less Philippine peso to buy $1. But if you talk about it the other way, let's say the US dollar goes up and nothing's happening to the Philippine peso, tataas yung value ng US dollar relative to the Philippine peso. So from 45, it might go up to 46, 47 because it would take more Philippine peso to buy $1. All right? Does that make sense, or would you like me to give you another go on this one? Okay, clear, I think. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. That's good. Okay. All right. So, moving on. How do you actually participate in forex trading? Okay, so there's two ways. Number one is you can do it manual, physical trading. So, for example, you go to a bank, you exchange US dollars for Philippine peso, vice versa. You go to money changers. Okay, so that's physical trading. I'm sure almost all of us has already done physical trading. Everybody has gone to a bank, a money changer, to exchange one currency for another. Especially if you're traveling, like you're on a vacation and you're traveling to Singapore, to Hong Kong, or even farther. So you have to exchange your money for their home currency. And you might not have noticed it, but you might have actually profited from trading forex physically. Okay? How so? Let's say you bought US dollars 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago when the rate was around 41. 41. So let's say you open the dollar account. Let's say you open like $1,000. Now, if you still have your $1,000, the rate right now is, I actually had dollars exchange a few days ago. I think it was like 46.35. So let's cap it up at 46 so that's not confusing. So let's say you opened a dollar account 2 years ago at 41 pesos per dollar. So meaning you have $1,000 and you put out 41,000 pesos to open the account. Okay, so you have $1,000. Now, the exchange rate is at 46, meaning if you exchange your dollars back, you will have 46,000 pesos instead of 41,000. So you've already profited 5,000 from that transaction alone. And if you think about it, how big of a percent is that? From 41 to 46, that would probably be around 10% already. Okay, more than 10%. So you earned 10% in 2 years by just opening a dollar account. So you might have not noticed it, but you might have actually profited from exchanging currencies. Now, another way is you can do it online. Okay, so physical trading takes a lot of capital, and it's kind of dangerous if you go to the bank every now and then and you're carrying like $10,000, $20,000. So that's kind of scary. The best way to do it right now is online. Okay? So for online trading, what you do is basically you have your computer with you, computer, laptop, tablet, phone, whatever, okay? And you have to get a broker. Now, what's a broker? A broker basically gives you access to the forex market. So you can have a broker. Okay? They're like banks. Okay? You put your money in them. You open your own account there. So the money is under your own name, and that's what you use to trade. So that those are brokers. They provide you access to the forex market. Now, another thing that they do is that they give you leverage. Okay? Now, leverage is a tricky thing. Okay? So, leverage is the broker gives you, let me simplify it. Okay? The broker loans you money for you to trade. Okay? The broker loans you money so that you can trade more. Okay? That's called leverage. Okay? The broker allows you to trade more money even though you don't have that much. Okay? So they can multiply your account times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, times 100, times 500. Some even go as far as times 1,000 of your original account. So you might think that, hey, that's actually a very abusable, perk that they're giving us. Okay, with my $100, I can actually trade times 1,000 of that. True, you can actually trade that much, but it's double-edged. If you profit from it, that's good for you. Okay? However, if you don't profit from it, if you lose, the broker will not take in your losses. Okay? You will take in all of your losses. So it will reflect on your account. So it's kind of double-edged. The broker allows you to trade more. However, all the profits and all the losses will still reflect on your account. Okay? So I know it might be a little confusing. Okay? I know it might be a little confusing. So let me explain it with the dollar account that we opened earlier. Let's say you have $1,000. Okay, it was from 41,000 pesos, and now it has increased to 46. So technically, if you exchange it, you have 46,000 pesos right now. So in that transaction, you earned 5,000 pesos. Now the broker allows you to trade more than your $1,000, okay, or your 41,000 pesos. So the broker can multiply that by 2, 3, 4, 5 times 10, 100, 500, 1,000. Okay? So let's go with times 2, okay, so that it's easy. Let's go with times 2. So instead of having a profit, okay, it will be multiplied by times 2. Okay? Having a profit of 5,000 pesos, it will be multiplied by times 2. So instead of getting 5,000 pesos, you will now get 10,000 pesos instead, okay? Because you multiplied it by 2. Okay? You use leverage. However, if the trade did not go well, for example, from 41 pesos, it decreased to 36, meaning you lost 5,000 pesos. Since you used leverage in that trade, your losses will be also doubled. Times 2 din yung losses nyo. So instead of losing 5,000 pesos, you will lose 10,000 instead. So that's what leverage is. The broker allows you to trade more funds with leverage. However, the reward in risk will also double and will reflect on your account. The broker will not suffer any losses for you. Okay? Is that clear? Is leverage clear? That one is a very tricky topic to discuss. Clear so far? All right. That's good. That's good. Okay. Sorry, just give me a minute. All right, there you go. So, oh, I forgot to turn my webcam on. Is this okay, or would you like me to turn it on? Would it be easier for everyone to understand if the webcam is on? Uh, maybe. All right. Okay, I'll turn it on. But if it slows down, just tell me so that I'll turn it off after. Okay? If it slows down. Internet here is terrible. It's buy and tell. It's a horrible, horrible internet provider. Okay? So I don't really advise it. How do I shorten this? All right. Anyway, right. So moving on. Okay. So now we understand the forex market. Okay. What the concept of forex market. So we kind of know and understand what it really is. So now, the question here is what moves the prices. Okay. So if you think about it, the price of the US dollar PHP moved from 41 to 46. Okay? So what fueled it? Okay? It's just basically the law of supply and demand. Okay? Law of supply and demand. Let's go to back to your economics 101 back in college. So what is it? Okay? The law of supply and demand states that if for any object that has high supply and low demand, basically it's cheap. If you have something that has low supply and high demand, basically it's expensive. That's the law of supply and demand. Now, it also works the same way for the forex market. When people want a certain currency, it goes up in value. If people don't want that currency, everybody's selling it. Okay, it goes down in value. So let's have an example, a more practical example. Let's say here in the Philippines, every December, okay, I'm not saying every, but most of the time, let's say most of the time during December, the value of the US dollar goes down. Why? Okay, I think you guys might have a good idea why it's going down. It's because a lot of our loved ones are located abroad. And during December, it's Christmas, everybody sends money here. So what happens? The supply of dollar goes up here in the Philippines, and we actually don't have any use for that dollar if we're here in the Philippines. We need Philippine peso to actually use it. So what people do is that they they sell the US dollar in exchange for Philippine peso. So what happens then? The supply of dollar goes up in the market and the demand of Philippine peso goes up as well. So the demand for US dollar goes down and the demand for the supply of Philippine peso goes down. So what happens? The value of US dollar goes down relative to the Philippine peso, and the Philippine peso's value goes up relative to the US dollar. Okay? So that's what happens during December. Okay, so just a quick advice: maybe if some your loved ones send you dollars during December, you might not want to exchange it that quick yet. You might like to wait for maybe a couple more months before you actually exchange it. Maybe Feb, March. That's maybe a good time for you to exchange your dollars, because there's a pretty good chance that they might give you a better rate than what you had in December. Me, I personally do that. So that's the law of supply and demand. Now this works for all currencies. Okay. Let's have an example. Let's see Japanese yen. Okay, Japanese yen. Um, Basically, the value of Japanese yen has been going down if you look at the charts for a very long time now. Why? Because of quantitative easing. It's called QE. Okay, QE, quantitative easing. What's that? What they're doing there is that they're printing Japanese yen. The government needs money, so they print Japanese yen. Okay, so what happens? The supply of Japanese yen goes up in the market, okay? And since there's a lot of supply, the value of it goes down. So that's a very practical use for that. Let me just answer one question here from Rodinho. So better to buy USD in December. Actually, yeah, it might be a good idea to buy US dollars during December.
Webinar di Forex.
Webinar.
Oh,
Alright.
Forex.
So,
Hmm.
huh? Okay, now going back. Now, another example is gold. Gold is also part of the forex market. You can also trade it. Um, for example, there's instability around the forex market. So let's say there's terrible news in the euro, there's terrible news in the US, there's terrible news in Asia, there's terrible news everywhere, and the investors are not sure where to put their money in. Where do they go? They go to metals. They go to gold. They go to silver, and that's where they put their money in. So because of that, a lot of investors buy gold. They move their money to gold, so the value of gold goes up because the supply goes down and the demand goes up. So that's another implication for that. So if you've actually noticed, whenever there's instability around uh, countries, and it's kind of big, gold usually spikes up. That's one of the reasons for it. All right, so let's take a short break for now. After this one, we're gonna discuss the math of the forex market. How do you read prices? How do you compute for profits, losses, and your trades? All right. So let's resume in what time is it right now? It's 9:48. Let's resume in 10 minutes. All right. Okay. So let's start. All right. So moving on. Now it's great to know all those information before, but it's kind of useless if you don't know where the market is, or where the market is going. So you know that you can profit from prices that are going up, and you also know that you can profit from prices that are going down. Now the question is, where will the market go? So to answer that, you can you can use two types of analysis. You have fundamental analysis and you have technical analysis. So let's start with fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis is analyzing currency movements based on economic factors. What do you mean? Earlier, we mentioned that whenever something happens to the country or to a country, it reflects directly on their currency. So you can analyze a market based on that, based on employment rates, bank statements, political events, disasters, all of those things um, take influence the movement of the prices. Okay, let's say there is a country experiences good economy, what will happen? There will be higher currency value. If they experience bad economy, they will have lower currency value. So you can use fundamental analysis to your advantage. What's happening to the country? It reflects directly on their currency. Now, so you can check out news and everything. The easiest way is to check the economic calendar. Okay? You search it on Google economic calendar. There's like tons of them. So that one consolidates all the significant news data that are coming in at specific times. So for technical analysis, there's another way. For technical analysis, this is basing your trades or basing your analysis on past prices, volume, and market activity. Basically, what is happening on the charts. So history tends to repeat itself. So it's based on past prices, volume, and market activity. Now, normally we have this thing called supports and resistances, supply and demand zones, anything you want to call it. Okay? So these are areas wherein prices are likely to bounce. Okay? So for example, you have supports. Supports are found below the current price, and supports are areas wherein prices usually bounce back up. Resistance, on the other hand, is just when prices, areas where prices usually bounce back down. Okay? So later on, next session, we will have something more in depth with identifying supports and resistances or supply and demand zones. Right. So in addition to technical analysis, you can also use indicators. Indicators, they are robots and additional tools that help you analyze the market. So they analyze a specific thing. For example, if the market is oversold, if there is too much volume, there's not much volume coming into the market. That's indicators. The moving averages. Okay? So they can help you analyze the market. Okay? But remember that even though these indicators help you decide where to buy and where to sell, never base your trade solely on this one because it will not work. Okay? I've tried it before. If you're only basing your trades on a magic combination of indicators, it's not going to work. Okay? Later on, we'll tell you why, and we'll show you how to combine your trading strategy with indicators, or yeah, okay, how to use indicators properly. Okay. So those are two types of analysis that you can do: fundamental, news-based; technical, charts-based. Okay. Some people combine both, and try it out for yourself. It might work for you. Right. So what do you really need to trade? Number one, a stable internet connection. I don't recommend buy and sell. Seriously. Number two, you need a good broker. So in Pafti, we're very neutral with brokers. We don't actually recommend any one in particular. We just recommend based on our personal experience. So just get good brokers, because if you even though you're good at trading and your broker does a lot of shady things with your trades, it's gonna give you a really difficult time. Okay, so get a good broker. And then number three, think of returns relative to your capital. Don't think that your $100 will become millions in a few days. Okay? That's how they're advertising it outside. That's how they're marketing it to you. Secrets of a millionaire, secrets of whatever. Okay? How to turn your $100 into a million. Okay? So, how to turn your $100 in a million in 2 days. Okay? You can actually turn $100 into a million. I've seen it happen, but not in 2 days. So, think of returns relative to your capital. Okay? To keep your trading safe, think of a workable percent return. So, for example, let's say you're making like 5% per month. That's good stats. You're making 10% per month. Excellent for you. Okay? So don't think that your $100 will triple in the next 2 days. Okay? Because you can do that, but that will be high risk. Right. So what are your options to start with trading? Here are just a few ones. Number one thing, what we recommend to everyone is you trade your own account. Do it manually. Trade your own account. Learn how to trade. Do your homework and everything. Trade your own account. Okay? Nothing beats manual trading. But though it might take a long time, some take a couple of years, some take just a few months. So it really depends on the person. Okay. Number two, you can do assisted trading, signal-based trading. So they can give you actual areas where you can buy, where you can sell with take profits and stop losses. So some brokers offer you that. Some private institutions also offer that. Okay. You can also check that out. But as much as possible, don't rely much on these, or don't rely 100% on these. Third one is you can do automated trading, okay, or robot trading. There's these things called EAs, or expert advisors, that do your trading for you. Okay. Now, this is a little tricky because it might sound really nice that a robot trades for you, but that's a robot. Okay? It doesn't really decide if it's a good time to buy or sell. It just does what it's programmed to. So there's a lot of robots that are not profitable. So whenever you test robots, you have to put in like not really a big capital, and you have to run it for a couple of months before you can actually fully test if it's okay or not. But so far, with our experience, we haven't found a fully automated EA yet. We found good EAs, but we have to have some manual intervention with that. So just take care with the robot trading. One of our members actually invested in a lot of robots, and actually the association actually invests in robots as well, and we try to test it out as much as we can, okay, from our personal funds. And well, not a lot really go in, so that's part of it. So I don't really recommend robot trading. And then number four, you can also opt for fund management, but please do make sure that you know your fund manager and you know how he trades, and you know the risk management there. Okay? So I still recommend option number one for everyone. Trade your own account. Okay? All right. So basically, that's it for the forex market. Now, I'd just like to give a few minutes for identifying scams and Ponzi schemes. This might actually be very useful for everyone. So, any questions before we move on to that topic? Is everything clear for the forex market basics? And yep, none. All right, that's great. Okay, so right, let's move on to identifying scams. Sorry, I wasn't able to prepare slides for you, so I'd just like you to check this video out. It's like a 2-minute video from Investopedia. It's actually a very well explained video. All right, so check it out.
Ponzi scheme has become an expression to describe any sort of scam or con game, but it actually has a history of its own. Its roots go back to Charles Ponzi, who pulled off the most successful example of this type of fraud in the 1920s. A Ponzi scheme is a scam where the returns given to early investors are paid for with the investments of later investors. There is never any actual business or profit generation. The return to investors consists solely of the money obtained from new investors, minus a cut for the criminal running the scam. Ponzi operators resemble legitimate investment management operations, but they often claim to use obscure or secret trading strategies. Ponzi schemes attract investors by promising incredible returns that investors can't find in the market. Early investors in the Ponzi scheme are usually unaware that it's a scam and may recommend the investment to others, but they do not benefit from these referrals. In the end, these scams always collapse, either because legal authorities find them and shut them down, or because the people running the scam run out of new investors to defraud. Because there is no actual business or investment strategy being followed, the lack of new investors leads to plummeting returns. When this happens, many investors will withdraw their money, if there is any money left. Sometimes the operator of the scheme takes the remaining money and tries to disappear when he sees that no new investors are buying in. Skepticism is an investor's best defense against a Ponzi scheme. If the returns sound too good to be true, they probably are.
Okay, right. So, I hope you got the message from that video well. Okay. So again, this is also Investopedia. It's an excellent website to check out terms and jargons. So, how do we actually identify scams? So here are just some 5 tips that are very useful whenever you're checking out if it's a good investment or not. Okay, if it's legitimate or not. Number 1, like mentioned in the video, skepticism is your friend there. Okay, so if the returns are too good to be true, they probably are. Okay, so usually Ponzi schemes promise you like a really big amount, maybe around 50%, sometimes double your money in 1 month or in 3 weeks. That is, and then they guarantee you with a post-dated check or something, okay, or a contract. So you should watch out for those things because having a return of 100% in a month, those are radical returns. So if you've been trading and you should try trading, doing 100% per month consistently, that's insane. Okay? So if the returns are too good to be true, they probably are. Number 2, background checks. Check if it's really a legitimate investment. Check out if they've done it before, or they're still new. Who these people are, what have they done in the past. Okay? So do your background check as well. Outside custodian, what do you mean by that? It means that normally whenever you have fund managers, you have 3 parties in the group. So you have you as the investor, you have your fund manager, and you have your broker or wherever they're trading. So whenever you're putting money in, it can't be the broker as well as the fund manager. Okay, that's not gonna work. Okay? That's a red flag right there because they can manipulate all the data they want because they're the broker. You put your money in them. So you always have to have 3 entities with that. One is the investor, that's you. One is the fund manager, and then the other is the broker. It have to be 3 separate entities. And then 4th one is skin in the game. What do you mean by that? They also have to be in the same investment. Okay? So, for example, you put your money where your mouth is. So, for example, they tell you that I'll give you 100% in a month, okay? And then they're not putting their money in there as well. Why aren't they doing that? Okay? So that's another red flag for you. Okay? So, and then last one is other considerations. If they give you like what's mentioned in the video, an obscure trading strategy, they don't want to explain to you how it exactly profits. How do they actually do it? Then they might not actually be doing anything. Okay? So there might not actually be any trading in progress. So a lot of our members actually have already experienced these scams, and it's very sad. From low time scammers to big time scammers, we've experienced it a lot. when we were in Baguio before, last year, there was like a really big scam there. It's called Satara. Okay, Satara Trading. Um, we kind of told everyone that that's not a very legitimate investment. And when we got to Baguio, it was really scary because Satara was ahead of us. They told everyone that we were the scammers. And then when we were giving our lectures already, everybody thought that we were the scammers. So that was kind of weird and scary. So, and lo and behold, after a couple of months, it closed down and ran away with everyone's money. And then they were caught in Pangasinan, I think, a couple of months ago. They were in the news. So that's a good example. If you go to CDO, there's like a lot of scams there. Last recorded was like I think 900 million was lost. So it's a really big amount, and that's been going around for since forever. So best way to counter these ones is for you guys to know what scams really are, and for you guys to tell your friends and family how to avoid it as well. Okay? So I think that wraps it up for this for today's webinar. We've discussed a lot already, and I hope you guys learned a lot from our seminar right here. Do you guys have any questions with anything from Baguio? Okay, we have someone from Baguio, right? Okay, so I'm sure you've heard a lot. Okay? You might have heard a lot. Yep. Okay. So that proves it right there. I hope you didn't get any put anything in Ponzi schemes. But there's a lot. There's like left and right Ponzi schemes, especially if you go to La Trinidad. Uh, like in almost every building there's like a Ponzi scheme there. So family did. Sorry to hear that, man. Yung time ng 4 sessions sa market. Right. Coach Paturo know how to read the forex calendar. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. And time uh, ng 4 sessions sa market. All right. Let's go with that. Let's start with the 4 sessions of the market first. You have 4 sessions. Why 4 sessions? I think there's only 3. So you have the Asian session, which starts at I'll just type it down. Okay? I'll just type it down so that you guys know specifically what markets open at what time. This is in Filipino time, all right? So I'll write it down in chat. So first one is at 4 a.m. That's New Zealand, okay, GD. And then the next one is 5 a.m. That's AUD. Next one is at 7 a.m., which is JPY. Next one is 3 p.m. That's Euro. Next one is 4 p.m. That's GBP. That's pound. Next is also 3 p.m. Also, this is every day. This is every day. How the market opens every day. 3 p.m. also CHF. That's Swiss franc. For around 8 p.m. This is your US dollar. Okay. So those are excuse me time. Yeah, that's PH time. Filipino time plus GMT plus 8. So it depends on daylight saving time. If it's daylight saving time plus 1 and then minus 1 if not. Okay. Forward 1 minus 1 if not. Okay. Just be wary of daylight saving time. So okay. Calendar. Yeah, let's do calendar. So I'll just do this very quick for our calendar because this is actually part of next week's session. So I'll just show it to you. See, buy and sell takes a long time. All right. Okay, so you have here your Forex calendar. I'm using one from Forex Factory. Remember, you have to change your date settings here. So right now it's at 10:58 a.m., which is totally wrong. So you change that, okay, to whatever time you're in. So for example, you're at GMT 8, because we're in the Philippines, daylight saving time off, and then save settings. Right, so it says here it's 10:59, which is actually true, and then you go to your calendar, and then voila, you have here several columns. You have your date, you have your time, you have your currency pair, you have level of impact, you have the news, you have details if you want, okay? You have the actual forecast and previous data. Now, how do you read all of this? Okay. So let's have an example for, okay, let's go down here, unemployment rate. So let's say it's Friday, yesterday, September 2. So these are the exact time that these news will come out. So at exactly 8:30 p.m., the unemployment rate and non-farm payroll will come out. Okay? So these are the currencies that will be affected. So for example, for non-farm payroll, non-farm employment change, US dollar will that is what will be affected. Now you have here colors depending on impact. So I think there's a legend here. There you go. Red for high impact, orange for medium impact, yellow for low impact, gray for non-economic. That means it's a holiday, and there you go. So those are the impacts. Now let's go with these ones. Again, you have actual, forecast, and previous data. For actual data, before the news, what they will give you is forecast and previous data. Meaning, forecasted, that is what they're thinking the market will, or the data will be. Previous, that's the data before. Actual comes out at the exact time that it's written here. Okay. So, how do you interpret this data? Okay. To keep it simple, if let's say non-farm employment change, you have to understand what the news is, okay, beforehand. Okay. Let's say you have your forecast was that 180,000. That's your forecast. Previous is 275,000, and then suddenly the actual data is only 151. Okay, so if you want to check out what it really does, okay, you can click out the detail here. So what is the non-farm employment change? Basically, it's the change in number of employed people during the previous month, excluding the farm industry. So basically, people who are working, that's not part of the farming industry. So the usual effect is that if the actual is greater than the forecast, it's good for the currency. So what happened? Here is the forecast. You have 180,000. The previous was 275, meaning a lot of people had jobs. And then suddenly it plummets down to 151. So what will happen to the currency pair? Okay, what will happen to the US dollar? Naturally, it should go down. Okay, it should go down, but that does not always happen in the market. All right, so sometimes it gives you bad data and then it spikes up. So that's a forex market for you. Basically, that's how to read the forex calendar. So clear? You can, yeah, my FX Book app also is a wonderful app. It actually updates you on the next news that are coming out. So it's an excellent app. Download it as well. You can hook up your accounts there, so that you can have statistics for your account or your trading. Right. Okay. So I think that's it. Um, Someone was requesting advanced trading strategies for this one, but let's leave it for now. Maybe let's move it for the next few weeks because this one is really dedicated for intro. Right. So, okay. Anything else, guys, before we end? Okay. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you so much for attending our webinar, and it's happy anniversary for us. Yeah, next week ulit. Oh, sorry. I just have something I'd like to show you guys before you leave. I'd just like to ask you guys, do you agree that we should change the anniversary celebration venue and time? A lot are requesting to have it changed to venue will be in Manila, and it will be moved to a later date, which is the last week of September. Would you guys agree to that? Still thinking? Okay. Manila, yeah, okay. So we have a couple of suggestions here. And I'd also like to show you guys something before we end. September 24, yeah, maybe September 24, last week of September. I'd also like to show you guys something. This is interesting. Right. So, Korea. Sorry, my friend. If you're gonna pay for our tickets, why not? I'd like to show you these guys. So part of the event is that we're giving out. We have shirts here. So I actually got excellent designs, and I'd like your input on this one. Would you like the colored one, or would you like the black and white one? So I'll show it to you guys. This is the black and white for the shirts, and here's the colored one. And then we can also have hoodies, either black and white, and then also the colored one. Okay, so we can only choose between colored one or white one for everyone in the group. Okay, so I just like to show you that because later on we can have these ones for our events. All right. So anyway, I think we might move it to Manila. We have we'll just give you an update, guys. Colored. You'd like the colored one better? Black and white. Okay, we're getting like several suggestions here, so maybe I'll make a poll later on which one you like. Okay? So anyway, thank you guys, and I'll see you next week. Can we get hoodies here in Dumaguete? Yes, you can. We'll just send it to you guys. For people abroad, we'll find a way. We will find a way. And thank you guys for everyone. See you next week. I will have something deeper next week. Bye bye.